Okay.
There's nought round here for you. We don't like folk poking their noses in. Straight in for part 32, straight in on the M62 for part 32. No, it's not, it's the M60. We're straight in, we've got to go and get that engine. I told you we'd get the engine. Let's go get it, let's see Warren, let's get the engine. So welcome aboard everybody. It's another episode and we open straight on the motorway for part 32, Project Ruby, Cortina City, bringing it in. Let's go and check that engine out. We're going to take you for a little tour around the old part of Manchester as well. We're going to see some old buildings and things just on the way back. Bit of interest for the film. Old Manchester, some of the old back streets that are still left. So we're going to go and do that. Interesting building on your left if you just look up to that interesting curved arch there. Could have been an old theatre, look by the looks of it. There's a lot of old stuff like that knocking around Manchester. Let's keep our eyes out for any because we're filming. Old Art Deco Club Apollo. Look at that old Deco building. The Manchester Apollo. Coming up to Ardwick for Johnny Marr's hometown from the Smiths. Ardwick for Johnny Marr. Morrissey and Johnny Marr hanging around these areas now. If you could go back to the early 80s, you could just see him strumming down the road there, guitar in hand, looking for Morrissey traipsing his feet. There you go. Let's get in on that there. Warren's proud of this, I can tell. He doesn't want to let it go. That's him, there. He don't want to let it go. What? Are we allowed to cut? So, the Adams family, did you say?
Yeah, the Adams family.
You need 2 round patches on your eyes. Get some of that engine oil over there. Have you seen what car's it going in that? Let's wheel it straight in. It's a good place to put it in front of the... Tell me that is the Mustang.
It is the Mustang.
Whew, go for that. It's all clean inside and everything. He's been busy.
Just kept 2 bolts at the back there.
Right. New pump there. Boy's been busy. Hey up.
Yeah.
It's off into there to have to get the cats on film as well, and a revisit to the Mustang, I reckon. Let's stay locked on, everybody, because we're with Warren and I can't keep calling you Uncle Fester. Well, for the purposes of YouTube, Uncle Fester's here to help us. I don't know what's the woman? Morticia. We need Morticia. That's what we need. Gomez! Straight to the vault, everybody! One's like that black and that grey and white one. Is this mother? No, mother's. Is it mother?
Yeah.
She's just making sure we're not hurting the kittens, isn't she?
Threw that right out there, didn't you? Right out, no hesitancy.
How old?
How old are they all?
3 weeks. 3 weeks, just, yeah. This weekend will be 3 weeks.
That's the thing. You start end up with loads of cats if they're not done, don't you? It's like,
Yeah.
But they're nice. I got two. They're old now. Well, one of mine's old now.
We've got about 22.
Yeah. She's protecting them.
Go on. Go on, kid.
So lay hands off. This is the bit where we make you all hungry again, because Warren likes to pop into his local cake shop and where better than the horse's mouth into the lion's den of cakes. Mmm. I've got this on the last video, Warren. Cakes. We say goodbye now to Warren, so we head off down the highways and the byways. And out of the city we go. We escape Manchester, engine on board and ready for us to get on our engine stand in the workshop. So let's get into the workshop and pop the engine on the stand and we'll start fitting it up. It's the cylinder head next. After that we're going to wait to pick the cylinder head up. So out of the town we go, get out of the traffic before it gets bad. We're just going to miss this traffic on the left because we're straight ahead. So all good, let's go. See you in the work. Okay, engine flipped upside down, engine stand bolted to the back of the engine. Got some through bolts just at the top, and then the lower ones go into the block, the correct thread nipped up on the 17s, and they stand assembled here. So we just need an assistant to help me lift the block up onto our Clark stand there. Just assembled that. It disassembles down into 3 bits. You just bolt it together. Handy little units. It was alright for Swampy, so we use again. Just going to wait now for a hand in the workshop. I'm not going to try and lift that on my own. No chance. So we wait and we'll get that on slotted into there. Let's do that next. Okay, so we carry on. We're going to be mainly on the engine on this episode 32. So we look over the top, we see the pistons in, the new pistons in. They're 1 mil over. New journals, all the big end bearings and stuff. Of course, you saw on earlier videos how we acid cleaned the block and shot blasted it, or rather just shot blasted it. So I'm just digging out of stores all the ancillary items for the engine, not final fits. I've just sort of loosely put everything on. There's our EFL 90 filter, our Bosch distributor there, just sat it in. There's a few little, I've got a new diaphragm for that, or rather a zinc passivated one which looks a little bit more shinier really. That's the only reason. I can leave that on, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm going to dig a fuel pump out in a minute. We're going to find that actuating rod, 2 lengths of actuating rod depending if you use the packer piece for your filler, for your fuel pump. Later fuel pumps were sat on a rubber block or a very hard plastic block, which was designed, I think, to stop heat transfer from the engine block into the fuel pump. It's an insulated piece, and consequently they made the push rod longer. So you'll find there's 2 lengths push rod. If you put the longer fuel activating rod in here and you haven't got the spacer block, you'll have problems. It'll push it into the pump too much. Consequently, if you've got the shorter rod on a fuel pump that's got the packer piece, it's a black plastic thing about 1/2 inch deep, then you'll get rattling because the pin will not quite be packed out against the cam lobe here, and it will rattle. I've had that happen. Okay, there's that. We've got the EFR box, or the fume canister that goes here that draws the fumes out of the crankcase box. We need that. We need a dipstick tube. So all I'm doing, I'm not finally fitting these bits, as I said, I'm just getting all my stuff, because it's scattered across the universe, all my parts, as inevitably they are. Some stuff goes for powder coating, some stuff's brought new, some things are just generally lost. So today's job is just to get all the engine parts in one place. Cylinder head's a separate mission. I'll just do the short block today. Engines aren't my strong point, so I'm looking out for help on this. Okay, although having said that, Swampy's engine, 22,500 miles. Other than the valve clearances, I've done nothing to it. It's run like a dream. So maybe I'm not as bad as I think, but they're not my favourite thing, engines. Though I must say, bolting all this on here is quite good fun. Okay, maybe it'll grow on me. Going up stores now, get some more parts. Just keeping you updated as I go along, adding little bits to the engine, just finding the bolts for the engine mount brackets. Put these are new Victor Rhines cylinder head bolts, just may as well get some new ones, they're not expensive. So we just pop them in, just so they're out of the way and we know that we've got them. Distributor on there, I've cleaned it up. I've just buffed and lacquered that little diaphragm. The galvanised one I was going to use a different type, so that distributor's been lightly greased and then just put into place. It's engaged with the auxiliary drive shaft, which also drives the fuel pump. We've got to find a pin and we've got to find our bits for the fuel pump soon, because we've not got that yet. I've got to go hunting. The catch can for the crankcase ventilation is on there, just an interference fit. You just push them in. These can be loose. This one's not too bad. It might be because it's got a little bit of paint on it, but that's gone in. I just rocked that in. They can rattle around and be loose though, so watch out for those. No real ideas on how you would seal it if you did have a loose one. You could try some type of gasket sealant, or there'll be something you can get that'll lock those in place. This one's all right. Dipstick tube in, again an interference fit, just the tube pushing into the casting, but that seems solid. Cleaned up the dipstick and painted that one. So next job, I'm just going to put the engine mount bracket on, and we're going to dig out the sump pan bolts, because the sump pan at the moment isn't bolted down. We just want to check all these auxiliary pulleys. This isn't the pulley I'm using, I've got another one knocking about, better one than that, just to clean a face on it. There's nothing wrong with this one. I'm just going to use the best bits I've got on this engine. So I'm working on that. Keep you updated. Okay, it's time to start building up the bottom end first. So we've already got a gasket in place here. It's held down with some non-setting sealant there already in position. As we get to the front, where this front pulley plate is, we're not fixed down just yet. The first mission is to get this completely flush, the front plate, with the engine block. We use a straight edge rule for this. We just run the straight edge along here, cross that bit, and just make sure that it's flush before we bolt it down. Bolts from the front there, so we'll get it nipped into position first, and then I can put a little bit more sealant on this, tuck it under that little rubber seal. We'll just grease this up and lay it in so it's not completely dry, just so you don't get it bond into it when the engine's hot. It's best to keep that supple. Now my ideas on this are only what I did off my previous engine, which hasn't given me any faults or any oil leaks, so I'm just going to do a copy of what I did on Swampy's engine, which is a 2-litre Pinto, identical to this. So my first job is just to line up the front aluminium guide, the cam belt guide plate, this one here. So straight edge rule on there now, and then get some bolts in from the front. I bought new bolts for this because they're just pretty off-the-shelf type bolts, not really specific to the engine. So we've got some lock washers and bolts to go on. We're going to do that straight edge there. So engine block, sump pan, fit into the sump pan, and just checking everything's ready to go. Straight edge first for the front plate. Okay, so I've got a 10mm socket on the front of the cam belt guide plate. We've got gasket sealer on the face of that, and I've just used the straight rule just to get that nice and flush, see there. And what I did, just to convince myself, very lightly, because it's alloy this, so you gotta be careful, but I just like to just tap it flat. Same on that side there, just tap it flat, and then I can nip up these 10mm head bolts. Okay, so they're right, and we'll get the little torque on them after and just check they're clicked in. That's if there's a torque setting for those, but I'm just going to nip them up what I feel's the right strength. If I see in the book that there's a torque setting, I'll nip them up to that. A little bit of grease is all that's needed there, just for that rubber gasket. That doesn't need the sealant on it. So that's the first thing to do, is line that plate nice and flush. Once you've done that, then you can sit your gasket back down. I'm going to put a little bit of non-hardening sealer on that face of the gasket as well. I like to do that, and then I can put the sump in position. We've checked Warren's torqued all these up, so we know they're torqued up right, and the oil pump and everything's been set, and we're all in position there. So we're ready for the sump to go on. There's nothing to stop us putting the sump on, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Right, I'm set and ready to go. A little bit of non-setting compound on the face of the gasket may be necessary, maybe not. But that's ready to offer the sump up now. Front of the gasket, on this rubber seal at the front, just tucking out the lugs of the gasket under the little ears of the rubber gasket there. It sort of fits together. You'll see that when you're trying it out. So I'm going to put the sump on, and the bolts have a tightening sequence. We'll just grab the manual now for that, but it's normally opposite sides. But there is a sequence for tightening up these sump bolts, just to apply the torque evenly to the face, so it grips it in an even position, doesn't create ripples in the panel. It needs to sort of flatten itself out evenly with the force. If you tighten one up and then one here, you can create a force between the sump slightly and buckle it a little bit, only minutely, but if you follow the plan, I think that's the theory anyway. I need my I'm learning t-shirt on today. Sump going on next for engine rebuild. Okay, that's going good. Then bolts are all finding their locations with no problem at all, and it's slowly taking down the sump evenly and just squeezing out, and just see a little bit of blue sealant just squidging out of the edges, which is what we wanted. So I'll carry on with the remaining bolts. There's about 10 more left to go, quite a few on the bottom of the sump. Then we're done. Then we can spin round and we'll tackle the other parts. As I say, I've put a few bits on already, but we'll carry on building it up. It's good fun. It's Meccano time. Let's carry on. Okay guys, a few more bits on, everybody. Engine mount brackets on. Just there. Using short bolts, but careful you don't use too long of bolts for here. These are only a short 13mm head with a washer built in. Tight bolt, and about the length of my thumb. Not very long. Short stubby bolts, them ones. Watch out. Pick the wrong bolt out your bolt pack and they don't go all the way into the block, so just watch that. Got the ECR valve here, the crankcase breather valve in. That's a new one with a new Motorcraft rubber bung into the catch pot there. Now you can get them. Here's the box it came with from Burton Power. Not very expensive, about £8 for the pack. New grommet and a nice new EGR valve. These do rattle, I noticed, when the engine's running. Now this is the way they are. This is a brand new one. Swampy's got a brand new one, and the engine shakes at a certain vibration. You do hear the spring in the little PCV valve rattle around. That's just the way that they are. So they can be rattly, those, but a nice snug fit there. You often see a lot of these wobbling around and loose. Again, the catchment pot's a good snug fit. I've talked about that being an interference fit just down there. Basically just squashes itself together. There's no way of actually sealing it. It's metal to metal, in other words. If you find your pot loose, you'll have to find a way of securing that pot to the engine block. It's just that when these start to wobble around, it wears down the metal and it's too small a diameter and they end up wobbling. This one's a good snug fit, so we're happy. new rubber grommet as said, and the PCV valve going in. I think it's called PCV. Positive crankcase ventilation, PCV. So in it goes, a little bit of silicone grease to help it along the way. Nice snug fit, looking good there. Dipstick done, repainted and done. I think we covered that. Now moving along to the front of the engine. I'm going to replace this wheel, and we're getting ready for the water pump now. So water pump's down here. I've gone for the alloy one because it's a bit lighter. The Motorcraft one's good, but my Motorcraft one I'm saving for something else. So this is a Quinton Hazel alloy pump with just some lacquer over it so that I can wipe it down when I'm cleaning the engine bay. With it being a rough texture finish, you find that it'll attract dust and dirt quite quick if you're cleaning your engine bay for shows and stuff. I like to lacquer the pumps and it wipes down easier. So I use a good lacquer for that, a couple of coats. It has had a dusting of aluminium paint as well, which is very close finish. The inside face isn't painted, as you can see. That's close that to the paint finish, so that goes up. Now before we take that up, there's a special bolt that you use to mount the pump. Don't forget this when you're building your engine. That one goes just here at the bottom. Look at that bolt, everyone, on screen, so you know what you're looking for. Okay, that's that bolt. That goes in the bottom of the water pump, and the end of this slot on the bolt fits into the crankcase cover. The crankcase cover has a little special black plastic clip. I'm going to offer you up a rusty or a shot blasted crankcase cover now, not my blue one that's been done. Going down, grabbing with my right hand, coming into your screen now is the crankcase cover, or the the cam belt timing cover coming into view, and see how that bolt is designed to slot this in. Now just on the cover itself you see like an oblong slot. That's the plastic clip that slides into the cam cover like a horseshoe shape. It clips in there, and then when you put this back on you just clip this into that. You don't have to get down and bolt the crankcase cover on at that point. You do at the bottom here with a 10mm, see, but you don't on the water pump bit. It clips in, and then there's two more bolts up at the top there on the cylinder head. So remember now everyone, on your Cortinas, on your Pintos, you've got that special shaped bolt there. So keep an eye out for it, keep it safe, don't lose that one, it's tricky if you do. So some gasket sealer on the face of the pump and we can fit the pump now. Before I go any further, I just want to show you this operating pin that drives the fuel pump. It pushes against the auxiliary cam. That's the auxiliary sprocket wheel. There's a little shaft inside the engine block pushing on this pin as it rotates. Now I'm going to go in another use for the long nose. We can get in a little slot just cut out at the bottom. You can get your long nose in. Grip very gently, you don't want to mark it. Out comes the pin. So that's a 45mm length pin. There's two types. There's a shorter one than this. This is the longer one, the 45mm. We've lightly greased that, so we're going to pop that back in there. I just wanted to show you the pin. So in goes the pin there. Put that back. Now the pin just pushes on the base of the fuel pump, so it comes in and out like this. On the shorter pin you have a standoff block here made of plastic, which just fits on the face there and stands the pump off. I think it was for stopping the pump getting too hot, so I'm not going to have one on this. We'll see how it goes. Obviously it'll still work, but it must have been an improvement or an alteration or something that they did. So shorter pin for me, because I'm not using that spacer block. Watch out if you're getting that pin wrong, because it could have caused something not to work there. And then we're getting ready for the water pump as well. Okay, before we do that, it's time for essentials. Courtesy of Warren, we've got our Eccles cake there. Oh yeah, you're all going to be wanting these. Product placement, ladies and gentlemen. Lancashire Eccles cake and a nice machine tea. I like my machine tea. So a little break and then we'll get on. I'll stick you on the tripod and we'll go up and fit that water pump, and we'll fit that fuel pump. Let's get on with that. Let's have a little tea break first. Okay, just getting ready with our fuel pump there. This is the AC Delco type pump. It's a little bit better built, I think, than the I think it's like, no, sorry, Quinton Hazel one. The AC Delco one's that got two cans together on it, but this is a good, well built pump there. So that'll go on just over here, touching that cam like that. No problem with use. I'm just using this Gaslight Blue sealant. We can use Stag Seal. Stag Seal's better, but my tub got run over, so we've lost our Stag Seal. I do like Stag Seal. Here's our pump coming up there, and I put a little washer on the end of that mounting bolt I just explained, just to spread the loading across the face of the pump. We'll dig in as much as well, so over that side for the pump. And our jacket here is all nice and clean inside because we had it cleaned and all blasted out, acid dipped, so nice and clean in the jackets. I noticed on an old engine I've got on the shelf that it was all completely crusted up inside here, so it just goes to show what happens on the older engines if you don't keep your coolant level with the right amount of antifreeze and coolant in it. I think there's some antifreezes that have got a sort of inhibitor as well, rust inhibitor, so good to use the best you can get. But we're nice and clean in here. This sprocket here is getting changed. Warren just fitted this, but I've got a real clean sprocket there to go on. We need to get the hub puller and pop that off. The bottom crank pulley bolt, these are notoriously difficult to get off. You may already know this. The one on this engine was broken. When we took it off, it cracked the sprocket wheel. So I've ordered a new one from Burton's. They're not cheap, 45 quid, so it's quite expensive. So watch out for your sprocket wheel. There's a little plate that goes on it as well. Got a few more bolts just to fit on the bottom of the sump, but we're starting to nearly complete the bottom end of the car with the ancillary items. Distributors locked in place there. Just showed you that oil catching can, and obviously the engine mounts at the side. We're going to keep looking to see if there's anything else down the bottom end. Then we'll go spin the engine round, nip up the sump bolts in the right sequence, and there's a little gasket I need for the sump plug. The sump plug has a little rubber washer on it, so when you nip up your sump drain plug, it doesn't weep. Other than that, we should be done for this, and we'll move on to the cylinder head. We've got to get the cylinder head picked up. We've got to get the FR30 Kent cam fitted, which will give us a bit of torque at the low end, so looking forward to that. So here we are. The engine build's coming on quicker than I thought. Pretty pleased. This face here, you might have asked why it's not painted. Well, I mean, it was something Warren pointed out. If you have a change in your water pump and you've got to put a new gasket on there, if that's all painted, when you're cleaning up the face for the new gasket, the paint gets in the way. So it's best, well, I think, thinking what Warren said as well, to keep that face paint free, so that you can emery paper down or get a scraper on the old gasket. You're just going to be taking your paint off there. It's not seen that bit anyway. And also on some of the Ford pictures that I saw, it looks like that is bare steel, so it might well be that factory didn't paint them. I'm not sure. If they did and I've not done it, I'll live with that. But that face kept paint free on my engine anyway. Once the cam cover's on and stuff, that's, yeah. But if you ever have got to change this water pump, you can get in without worrying about paint in the way. It's just a nice surface there, because a water pump will go in the life of the engine, and it's just one of those things where you've got good access here, and if there's paint on it. Okay, so, but there's one thing I've got to do. I've had my healthy dinner. This is my little treat, and fresh brew tea out of the machine, not instant. Real nice. Right, leave me with my tea break. That was good. Pickles cake, nice. A treat every now and then. Okay. Whoops, there's one of the securing bolts. So, the blue stuff, just a little smear is all you need to keep the wolf from the door. And as soon as I start recording, you get loads of jabbering on the radio. It's talk, talk, talk all the time. Not like the 80s records by talk, talk. All you ever do is talk, talk. I wouldn't mind if they played that. The blue, the blue, the blue. Now we're on with a bit of yodeling, is there? So offer that up. Get my lower bolt ready. The blue will just smear a little bit on the pump, we'll wipe that off. A cloth is always handy. Offer up. Let's grip that so we don't make any more paint on there. Gasket blue, and grip it on the pump housing. There's no problem with that. We like that. A washer on the top bolt, correct top bolt. You don't want them too long, you don't want them too short. Little blank shaft on the end of the bolt so you know you've got the right one. Bolt with the little blank collar on it. So keeping out of your way, I'm watching the screen as I do this so that you don't get clips of my back messing things up. 13mm spanner needed next to nip up the elusive 13. So we nip up one more bolt to just find out the bolt kit. That was a good thing with having those trays with all your bolts laid out. You can just pick out, and it's quite nice to set them all in a tub. Spend yourself a few hours when you've done all your bolts to lay them all out. It's easier then, more fun. We've got to find the double pulley that goes on here. There's a double drive pulley and obviously the propeller, the fan. Double pulley because we are having powered steering, and two belts on your powered steering, a double pulley, double crank pulley at the bottom. I need to find that actually. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the other bolt in here, then I'm going to go parts hunting again and find the pulley sets. It did come with them, so they've got to be around there somewhere. I'll go digging through my powder coating box. Double pulleys. We'll just can't fit that yet because sprocket's missing, but we can offer it up. We can offer that one up and just see how they're lining up there. I'll dig out some hoses as well, make sure I've got my radiator hoses ready, at least the bottom one, and then we're moving on. So let's keep going, we'll see you in a minute. A 13 and a 17 on the water pump, looking like the only suitable bolt I could find the right depth and that seemed to suit the aperture they've cut round here was a 17 head. The 13 seemed a bit lost and was quite loose in the housing. The 17 seems to fit right. Now that might be wrong, right, wrong, right, but it's certainly got the pump on. I'll have to check that one, that'll annoy me. Okay, nipped up. Moving on, nipped up. Okay, fuel pump going on now, and that looks like the right bolt for the fuel pump. Built-in shake-proof washer on it, the 13mm head. Just shouldn't be too long to hit the end of the casting, too short as to not get enough bite into the block. But that looks right to me. It just starts to get tight as it approaches the face of the pump. So we finish off with the 13 ring spanner in, and we've got the blue gasket sealer on both faces of the gasket. On both faces of the gasket there. Straightforward stuff, all of this, but good reference material. And as pointed out, I'm not saying that I'm doing it right, I'm just doing the way I did it on my last car, and that worked. If there's improvements, those comments are always welcome. We like them. I pulled these, turned the sprocket wheel back so that the push rod was furthest back. It makes it easy when you're fitting the fuel pump. It's not trying to tension the pump up as you push it in. If you're doing it in your car, when your car's already done, if you're swapping a fuel pump, turn your crank on a 19mm bar until the push rod's all the way in. And when you're changing your fuel pumps, then you're not fighting against the spring pressure of the pump as the rod's fully extended, trying to compress the pump. So we've done that. We've done that. I can bring this closer if you want, there's no problem. We're on the dolly. You can even turn you round to the side so you can see what's actually going on downtown. There we are. Just that there. Okay, nipping up, just hand tight with these. Top one, 13. A little shank on the end of the bolt, and then the built-in shake-proof washer. I think they're the right ones. Okay, we're on with that. Next job, please. Hey guys, guess what? I forgot you could just turn the engine around and get to easier access points. I've just spun it around and you can nicely, hold on, I'm just going to reach down. Oh no, it's already in my pouch. So you can see there those fuel pump ones. So we're in up close on the fuel pump, easily done. Water pump, in you go. There's that bolt that catches it. There's a 13 and a 17 on the other side. That possibly could be wrong, but it seems to fit nicely. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Right the way round. There's what I'm talking about. It seems there's a nice hollow out, as though to get a big size socket in it, as opposed to a smaller headed 13. Example, 17 coming up. This is what I was saying. It just looks like it's built for that to me. It just looks right there. So a larger bolt, as opposed to this. Just to see how that's scalloped out, as though it's to take that and party. Okay. Right, spin right round. Right the way around we go. And we'll finish off these now. Here, these sump bolts, a few more to put in and then nip the whole lot up. Okay, there's our blue squidging out. Okay, next. Okay, cam belt cover. Some silicone grease on these rubber grommets. You've got to fit these little rubber grommets into the cam belt covers eyelets there, so we just get them in easier with some clear silicone grease. I'll show you that grease in a sec if you ever want to buy any. And just here we've got the clip I was telling you about. See how that horseshoe clip goes in to your cam cover. Now it could go either way. I've put it with a clip on the inside because it looked neater from the front, and that slots into that water pump bolt so that it locks the cam cover in. So we've got 3 of these grommets, and you'll notice I'm on a 16 cam cover instead of a 2 litre one. It's because I couldn't find, well, my 2 litre ones is really rough, and all the other 2 litre ones I've got are rough. As soon as I find a good 2 litre one, I'll just swap it across. This can come off in 5 minutes in your engine bay, but just for the purposes of building up, we'll use this one for now. This can go on a 1600 engine. I can sell this on the bay or trade it at the club, so someone will get a nice cam cover when we're done. But we'll probably have one in time for the build. We'll probably find a 2 litre one. Looking for a really tidy one. They often pit. You can repair them, you can fill and spray and paint, but this one was good to go. It helps us to get everything running. Okay, so we'll put that on. We can see how things are looking. It just gets everything there, so we know what we need. Fan on then, and the double pulley. There's that double pulley for the to drive the power steering pump, and then the original clean fan. I think what it's called then, original clean fan. So just showing you now the silicone grease that's used to help these rubbers in to the cam cover. It's a shame, it's such a lovely cam cover. There it is. Calube silicone multi-purpose. It doesn't attack rubber. It helps rubber on its way to stay soft. Stops it drying out. These have a habit of drying out and cracking. So by giving it that silicone, it's food for the rubber, softens the chemical of the rubber and helps it in any area where you've got a lot of temperature. So it's nice to do these little touches. It doesn't take any longer and it's not expensive, and you can sit back knowing you've gone above and beyond. Now to bolt this cam cover onto the engine, you've got a short 10mm head bolt through that with a washer on it. That's going to squeeze down on the rubber. The cam belt cover is kind of like mounted on its rubber, so it's got a bit of movement in it on the rubbers, and that's what gives it a little bit of flexibility. I'm not quite sure why you'd need to lock the cam cover so that it's floating, but they do it that way, just maybe stop it rattling, I don't know. But they have those rubber inserts. So I have one more to put on. Obviously I can't fit this because there's no cylinder head, and obviously there's other things to do, but all I'm doing is getting all my parts into one place for now. Things will come off that I've fitted. I've not nipped every bolt up tight. A few have, fuel pumps nipped up, water pumps nipped up, but the other things are just left in position. There's still a few more bolts to do on the inside there, but obviously we flip it upside down on the rotor, on the engine stand, and we nip them up. It's just because some of these 10mm bolts you can only get in with something this size. I'll show you what I mean. This one 10mm with a small socket, but I just need to get an adapter so I can get a ratchet on that. I'm looking for a long ratchet bar and I haven't got one. Can't tighten them up with this T-piece. I just got them in position with that. So I'm going to fit this, then I'll step back, show you the cam cover on. Okay, see the horseshoe there? You'll see that water pump bolt just almost in the middle of your screen, and in it goes to clip in. Just sits on that, and now we get the 10mm just here coming in off the right of your screen. Finger and thumbs coming in to find that hole in that casting. We'll just nip that up. It's a bit tricky as quite often I'm using one hand, the other hand holds the camcorder, but we get it there, and then just hand tightening it with that T-piece you saw. Straightforward stuff really. I mean, some of this footage you'll guess yourself, but it's handy reference material, and I do appreciate people have written to me thanking me for the reference material, so I'll carry on for that reason. Nipping up, and you'll see that it takes up the rubber and sits on that rubber, and the rubber just slightly squeezes out. We don't want to go too much, you'll over compress the rubber, but we need to have enough force where they don't come undone, so it's a tricky balance to get them right. So that's kind of, I can feel that that's now got a degree of movement in it. I'll check that that's right, but I'm almost sure that it is. So cam cover on then. Rest of those grommets fitted in place with the silicone grease, makes life a lot easier. We also use the silicone grease on that little bung there. It just helps things go together, and it nourishes the rubber. It'll extend the life and it'll keep it looking clean as well, because it gives a nice finish to the rubbers there. So twin cam, not quite, twin pulley, twin slot pulley. Not quite sure how it all goes together, never done a power steering project before, but we'll learn as we go along on that one. So stepping back, that's where we're up to. That's a day's worth on it. It's pretty quick to really put one together if you've done the time and took time to get all your parts stacked up while you're doing other jobs. That's the great thing, if you can plan your time out and do your research and your finances, so that you can have jobs lined up or getting done while you're working on other areas, and then that time's used. You've got everyone working simultaneously. Like for example, they're working on the paint job at the moment, the carpet people just rung in, so the carpet's done. So those kind of jobs we shuffle around, and that keeps us on schedule. There'll be delays of course, but you've got to attempt at least to do it that way, I think, if you want to do it in a certain time scale, and also so you feel like you're making good progress. you'll see those cylinder head bolts. I just put them in to put them out of the way. We talked about those. I'm running out of things to fit on the engine for now, till the cylinder head comes in really. We've got 2 engine mounts there. I could pop them on so I know that I've got them with their associated nuts and bolts, so I'll dig them out of stores as well. Then we're heading up towards the cylinder head, so that'll comprise of the cam, the followers, springs, valve guides, all those kind of items, which will already be done by the cylinder head company that's doing it for me. Then we can look at auxiliary brackets. There's some stuff at the galvanizers that I'm waiting to come back, which could create a delay because the galvanizers are using slots between big jobs to keep the cost down for me. So I'd say to them, drop them in the tanks when you can get a chance, rather than booking it in as a full-on job, and you save money that way. Give them the stuff and they wait for slots where there's room in the tanks for your bits to sneak in, piggyback in, you know. So we do that. So alternator bracket is different on this because it holds the powered steering pump, and that's gone away for galvanizing because it was made of steel and not aluminium. I decided to galv it. Could have powder coated it, but I don't think it would have suited, so I went for galv. Thinking on for anything else, I can't think of anything. I need a sump washer there for that, otherwise that'll weep. You have to have them. Found a little elbow for the vacuum pickup, pop that into position. We'll put some silicone grease on that too to nourish it. So there we are. That's it for today. It's a Friday today, it's the weekend coming up, so I'll be doing some editing and some updates on some of the Twitter feeds, and I'm going to leave it at that for this section, but for you it's only seconds away for the next part. Over and out for tonight for me. Enjoy the next part. Okay, we're between jobs again, and now what we're up to, but getting the chrome surround trim for the Series 1 windscreen. Early Cortinas, only in the first year, had the first 2 years, J to K, had this fitted round the rubber, and the A-pillar of the car is also recessed, so there is a difference in the shells as well. You've got a little recess down the A-pillar which accommodates the wider rubber, so because Ruby is a K-reg, it's got these fitted, and it's got the correct shell with the wider fitting. So what we've got to do is just, we've gone into stores. I also had some spare ones. These are Ruby's ones mixed in with the spares. Now I'm just going through them to make sure that they're not damaged. They've got to be re-anodized because even though that's a reasonable shine, there's light scratches and scuffs, and it's slightly dulled off and got a bit milky, which often happens with the anodizing on aluminium. But whilst we're doing that, I'm going to show you how I did a little repair, and you see there's a little mark there. We're going to try and take that out. I've already done one repair. I'm going to show you a tip to try and help if you are trying to get some wide chrome on your car and you find it's damaged. You can salvage it to a degree, only to a small degree, but this one here is now resting on the table. What happened with this one, it had quite a big dent. You can still see what's left of it, but I've actually repaired it, but it was almost creased across with a big dent in it. It's been passed around the block. This, I bought it I think on eBay, and they advertise it with the damage. To be fair, it's quite a good piece all the way through, but it did have that crease in it there and a dent on the edge. So what we did, a little tip you can do, I flipped it upside down and then we use a little solid metal rolling pin. Now that's I don't know where I got that from, it's out of some kind of item, but it's a solid pin. You could use a bar that's similar, and I popped that pin on the inside face of where the dent was, and then I tapped that to bring the dent in flush. You can do it, you can salvage these trims. They're so rare that you've got to try anyway. So around that area I tapped that, rolled it, tapped it and rolled it until, you've got to be careful because if you tap too hard you can imprint where the end of the roll is. It shouldn't do if it's flush, but be careful with that. Then that laved it just slightly raised. Then there's the magic little bit, socket bar coming into view now. Use it as a rolling pin and put the rolling pin or the socket bar on where you've just been doing, then with a reasonable amount of force with your hand, you start to roll that out, keeping it parallel and touching parallel on the face. Go over a sturdy edge of a table. Be really careful not to catch the trim when you're coming back over this area, otherwise you could end up putting a kink in it, so be real careful with your trim. Roll the pin it out and then scotch pad it down. So I just scotch pad down there and get it bright again, then hold it up to the light to try and find any more dents. Now this camera is actually better than my eyes at catching the light. It's just something to do with the way that it works, but this was well rippled. So it's actually looking, if you look down there now and we try and turn that so it catches some of the fluorescent strips, you'll see a little pit mark as well. There's nothing I can do about that. You can't actually, if you're getting it re-anodized, spoke to the anodizers, and the pits, there's not much they can do with them. The best you can do is get it flat as back as you can. They're going to buff these up on their machine on their what's called a plenishing wheel, but I'm just making sure, because they won't do the actual repairs. The refinishers didn't want to get involved in knocking out dents, because the amount of times they said that they've done it and then the customer said you've done this wrong, so they don't do dent repairs, which is why I'm onto this myself. So that dent, there was actually two there, are actually gone. And then the rolling pin really works nice to even it out. If you find that it's recessed still, you can get back on the bar and tap back out. Now I had to repair the edge as well, because it actually crushed this lip here too. So I used very carefully, I just found pieces of metal which seemed suited round the workshop. And it's best to use something that hasn't got any sharp edges or any corners, and roll things in. So I was using this action and rolling in, but you've got to be careful, because you can create more work if you're not careful. You can end up digging a hole, so but watch out, just take it really easy and try not to localize any pressure, because it will make pin marks and then you're in trouble. So find what you can that's going to suit the dent that you've got, and the rolling pin is a great way, and it can withstand it. It doesn't collapse the trim. The trim stays reasonably strong enough to put quite a good amount of force on this as you push the palm of your hand down on a socket bar and roll out what you've just tapped from the back. Then scotch pad back down again and hold it to the light and just see if you can see any others. Then if you do, put your other, excuse me while I just do this, your other rolling pin on. And then I kind of like spun it and tapped it. You can also press with your thumb as well and roll it, and you will get there, you will get them dents out. But to take the dent out like that takes about an hour. It took me about an hour, and I've got it where it's salvageable. That was quite badly creased. Now you can still see the remain of the repair on where it distorts that lip. Now this lip here is very tricky. You could I have gone in and tapped it out, but if I go in too far now, I could end up creating further damage. So I've decided to live with it, simply because the amount of recovery I've done on this is pretty good, and I thought I'm going to quit while I'm ahead rather than try and get any further on that. It is visible, but it's certainly now a usable piece. You could continue on this if you really wanted to, and that is actually creased that now, where the rolling pin's pushed over the metal and then actually distorted it, but it was dented in anyway. So I've not lost anything, I've gained, gone ahead of the game. Holding it again to the light there for you to see at home. You may see some slight imperfections. They're going to polish it anyway, so we might lose a little bit more there or gain a bit more, you know, as they polish it up. But that's that trim piece, so you can salvage them if you want. So we carry on now and we inspect all of the trims. I've got 2 sets here, so I'm going to do 2 sets, then pick the best 4 out of that set, and then keep the other set as backup, and we're away, we're good to go. So we mustn't lose that little clip at the end. That's a little saddle that clips on the end. This is the rear hockey stick or boomerang, and that's intact, there's nothing wrong with it. So we have got all the rest of them, apart from I've just spotted one on here, there. We could do something with that. Now you see an example of how this will cause visible distortion. You can just see around it, it's got a little, we'll get some of that out, but there'll always be that impact point because the metal's actually been lost there. So that's what I'm doing with that. Now, to take these off the screens, these are now obviously off the screens and the rubbers are down on the floor. I'm lucky in the fact that these rubbers are in really good condition. Now, that's a rare occurrence. This car's been looked after. It's been stored well and looked after, and those rubbers haven't really suffered any damage. And these are a special rubber, different than the facelift, well, the Series 2, not even the facelift, in that it has channeling in for that chrome strip to attach itself to. You can get the profile of rubber on from, I think it's from East Kent Trim. The only thing they don't do is the corners, but it's quite possible you can build a mitre join and then modify. You need that shape there for the intersection of the corners to land in, so that they're not pushing down, because you do get the join of the trim needing this space here to locate in, and that's in all four corners. So if you haven't got rubbers, or your rubbers are damaged, you could make some. I'm not sure how successful you could be with it, but there's a chance out there. These rubbers are notoriously difficult to get on Series 1s. In terms of connecting the trim hooks under the edge of this, and the idea with it is I believe it's easier to assemble the windscreen with the rubber arm and then fit the trim. Then you put the whole windscreen into the car with the trim on, because it's a lot harder otherwise trying to put it on when it's in the car, and you risk scratching the surround of the window when you fit it. So I believe the method to use is to connect it to the windscreen and clip everything up. And as I mentioned, then the edge of the chrome, edge of the aluminium trim hooks underneath the rubber. I don't think it double hooks. I think that this outside piece just rests on the rubber, and the way that it hooks pushes the trim down. I need to check that, but these came off. These trims only clipped on this inner edge, not on this bit. I believe that bit is resting over at the recess in the A-pillar, at least on the front of the screen. On the back there, recessing round the back window aperture. So you're hooking under, so you kind of like come in from this side and slot it in that way. I seem to remember on swamping me trying to actually hook this bit under the trim, so it could well be that I've got them wrong on swamping, that they would have to be changed. It's possible. I'm going to go and look, but I may have made a mistake there, not knowing. But certainly when I took these off, they weren't hooked on both sides of the rubber, only on that side, and it did seem a good fit. It's when the trim hooks under this, it sort of pushes it over, and it seems to all slot together quite nice. So that's where we are with that. A little diversion there, just to let you know, I'm packaging these window surround trims up to be re-anodized, and in the process of getting them ready for packaging, I spotted some dents. So that little technique there that I used worked for me, and I think I've got away with it. There could be other options, but that system worked. I didn't record the before and after simply because my camera wasn't up and running at the time I was doing it, and I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I just ended up finding myself doing that job. I hadn't planned to do it. There is one more that I did as well. This one was marked up. This was quite a big dent too. We got that out. It leaves a little tiny crater. There's nothing I can do about it, but I've done two. Again, that one was using the pin and rolling it from the back. You'll just see the markings where the pin's been rolling from the back, tapping very lightly. Don't use localized foot. You need to spread the loading out evenly. Don't be tempted to get a screwdriver or even a small bar and go localized. Go much further over the actual impact area, because you want it to ride on the bump and slowly squash it down. If you just try and punch it out locally, you tend to make a raised dimple, and then you can end up with more work. So You just got to spread the loading out and keep this surface flat, and be careful that you don't catch your clothes on the end of the trim or anything like that when you're doing it. So those trims to a degree can be saved. The pitting in them is a lot more difficult. This one, for example, has got quite a lot of pitting in it. They'll get some of it out when they plenish it on the wheel, but this will end up with a light scratches and pitting probably. There's not much you can do. I mean, we'll scotch pad that and just see how much is left. I'm going to leave that there. That was a little extra thing. We'll go back onto the engine now. Just before I leave you on the trims, this one here had heavy pitting on it. Just scotch pad it. That's a scotch pad, by the way, just like a Brillo pad really. And feeling it with my thumb now, a lot of it's gone, but there'll be micro pitting on it there which will show up. Now, it's not as bad as I thought when you start to take it off with the scotch pad, but you can only go so far. You probably won't be able to refurb these without getting them re-anodized, because the coating is so thin that when you start to buff it, you will buff the coating off. There's no way around it. It's so micro thin that it just becomes straight through to the aluminium. It's not an aluminium finish, that it's got a bright finish on it. That's what they call it, a bright finish, which is electroplated on. So if you say, oh, I'm going to buff them up and I'm going to spend the money on getting them, you'll end up with that dark patch like that. See that, how that's a dark patch? That's gone. The bright works come off and you're through to the aluminium underneath. Okay, so you can't really, once it's gone milky, the aluminium finish, there's not much you can do because it's so thinly coated that you've got no choice but to prepare them or ask the finishers to polish them for you, send them away, as long as you know dents like we showed you. Get the dents out if you have, then send these off, and we'll be telling you who's done these later on in the video. But you can see that patch, that's through to the aluminium, so that would now be useless if it wasn't going away for anodizing. But as it is, they dip this in a tank anyway and strip it all off. All the old aluminium gets stripped off in their tank. They then buff them. I think then there's a few other processes that they do that they were telling me about, but sort of let you know, can't really bring these up. You can see underneath what it should look like. That's not been exposed to the elements, so that bit stays nice and you get that lovely finish. We'll get as best we can on this. It will have micro pitting in it. There's nothing you can do over the new old stock. Okay, if there is something you can do and you can fill in micro pits on aluminium, I'd like to know about it, if indeed it's ever done. I'm sure that everything's possible, but it'd be interesting to see, because you can't really grind it off. There's not thickness of metal there to do that. It'll be interesting to see if there's anything out there. Yeah, I mean, you could fill these and paint them a different colour, but obviously that's defeating the whole object. I mean, you could lose those pits, but not without an aluminium finish. Maybe one day there'll be a process where you can fill with a standard filler and then coat it with such a coating that's durable enough that gives a similar finish to anodized aluminium. You never know, there might be a technique and process one day that can do that. For now, we go for re-anodizing on these. So that's the end of that little clip on the window chrome aluminium finishes. Jumping back to the engine then, socket bar coming into view now. So I'm going to use a long socket bar to get to the sump bolts, the 10 mils, and just we go around, we nip those up now. That's the idea, just to finish off those sump bolts so you can get to them nicely with a bar like that. There's only one which you can't reach even with a bar. That one's just down here. The bar won't even get. Oh, it's not that one. There's one around this area. I think is it that one, which you can't do. And I had to use an open-ended spanner for it. Other than that, all the rest we've nipped up. So now I'm going to replace this pulley here with a slightly better pulley. Put the hub puller on this now. Little claw that comes in and pops that off because it seems to be quite tight on that shaft there. So hub puller into this, and I'll just swap that wheel just because I've got one that's a bit smoother than that one, and then we'll see where we're going next. Okay, hub puller, just to get that auxiliary sprocket wheel off, just clamps on there, and you just wind the bolt. That'll pull it off quite nice. And then my new wheel, block of wood, my newer sprocket, some copper slip on the middle, and then we'll tap end of the block and just pop it into place. Then we find the mounting nut and washer, and we can bolt that sprocket wheel on. So I'm just going to give that a light tap and just send that back home, and then we'll get the bolt off. You might be able to pull it in with a bolt, possibly. We'll tap it on anyway. Okay, just take that copper slip off there, clean that up. Now we're going to go find that mounting bolt for the sprocket wheel. Okay, so new sprocket on, and just in case you've lost your nuts and bolts and you're trying to remember them all, this is a 17 head with a close pitch thread on it and a 5mm, looks like a 5mm washer, the thicker washer anyway, and that closed pitch thread there, don't forget that, just because it's on a spinning wheel, a different thread. So we nip that 17 up now. I'll just nip that up when the cam belt's on. I'll be able to get a better turn on it, or I could lock something in there, but I'll be checking all the nuts and bolts before we fire the engine. So I'm going to dig out the crank 19mm and washer and just stick it in so it's on. We haven't got that sprocket yet, we're waiting for it. So pop that on, let's see what else we can find. Crankcase bolts, crank end bolts, not as tight pitch thread as the sprocket wheel one was there. I was thinking it was a tight pitch thread, but my tight pitch thread bolt didn't go in, whereas this one does go in. So that bolt is in there, 8.8. Anyway, that's in. It must be that one. I always thought it was a very close pitched bolt, that one. I mean, it's not that coarse, but it's not that fine either. So crankcase and the thick washer there, ready for when we get the sprocket wheel. Next little item, we found a hose, found a nice Motorcraft bottom hose. So that's just in position. We're waiting for the double wire clamps to come back from the galvanizers. So that's on, and we're all nipped up around that casing cover. So I'm just going to go and have a look at a few other things. Guys, just making the foam strip edge for the inside of the cam casing cover, the anti-rattle edge. And as you probably remember me saying earlier on, may not be using this cam cover, but there's no harm in making one up anyway for this. So a foam strip that we use now to go round the inside of the cam cover. The idea for it is that it's the cam cover does vibrate and it wouldn't want to rattle on the face of the engine block, and that gives it a buffer zone. So some strips of foam tape, pretty straightforward, self-adhesive, and around we go. Okay, our nice buffering foam padding on there. As that touches the face of the engine, it's not going to create any rattles, we hope. That's going to work. I'll offer that up now, let's see how it fits in. I couldn't quite see where the cam cover touches on the engine. There are some little bits where it does touch, but I couldn't quite work it out. Let's get that clips into the clip. So there, so it looks like it's just around those bolts at the back. Oh, it just clears that one. I don't really know what it's designed to touch, that foam padding. Oh, a few little contact points just on the block there. Maybe they just put the whole lot on rather than just individual pads where it contacts. Maybe they just covered it completely just because it was easy for them to do. You can see how it would touch the cylinder head face. Anyway, it's good to get it on there properly. So 10mm bolts, and I'll just pop the cam cover back in position for now. Obviously it's going to be coming off and on. Okay, we're going to carry on with that engine build for this part of the film. We've now got, just in my hand, coming into the left, we've got the sprocket. That's coming off eBay because we didn't have one for this engine. So a raised lip of the sprocket wheel going on first onto the keystone, or the woodruff key. We're going to put a bit of copper slip on. This outer dish, the cam catching cover, fits dished outwards to catch the cam, and then that little slot goes on there, and then we've got our pulley. Just going to find the pulley. It's coming in on my left. and that's the pulley galvanized. That's the twin pulley for the power steering, faced inwards that way and then offering up, hopefully correct to the end of the crankshaft. So a little bit of copper grease and we'll tap that sprocket on first. Guys, have I got a treat for you? The opportunity arose to get 2-litre Pinto EFI. So Pinto married to an A4 box, and here it is. Auto. Why have we done it? Chance came to buy the engine with an A4 box connected. This gives us the perfect reference material to build our unit, and some much needed spares. It shows us how the alternator connects on the power steering setting. Look, we need that double pulley. Look, there's your double pulley. It confirms how all the brackets and everything line up on a Pinto for power steering, so we can use all this reference material. I'm going to film as much as I can, so you at home, if you're doing what I did, you've got some material here. Look, straight away a guard plate there for the lower heater hose, lower radiator rad hose guard plate. Bracket that we didn't have here. Look, there's a bracket there for the alternator. An adjuster bracket, different shape than the one I had, so we would have been stuck for that. There's that double pulley, we would have been stuck for that. The alternator's different, so now we know what type of alternator we need. It's a Bosch, but it says different casting on it, so we would have needed one of those. And then the gearbox, we're going to get the sandwich plate, we're going to have all the proper torque flex plate connectors. We're going to be able to take that gearbox off. We've got the starter motor, so we're going to know about that. We've got everything that we need here for our reference, and then we sell on all the surplus bits to recover our money. So we strip now. First I'll take the power steering setup off, and then I'll take off any ancillary bits that I need off the engine just as spares. We're selling the engine on. Then we'll go back and get that starter motor out, and we'll undo the flex plate bolts, and we shall be doing gearbox removal with close reference material and photographs. So I'm going to start now with the air ratchet, pulling this to pieces, and we're going to keep close reference notes as we go along. So great stuff. Join us as you witness a 2-litre Pinto engine connected up to an A4 box. We brought it here for you to see. These were only done, I believe, only for a 2-year production run before they went to double overhead cam. Previous Pintos were married to the C3 box, so you only had a brief window of opportunity where this was married up to the A4 box, where the Pinto block was actually married up to an A4 box. So this gives us exactly what we needed, what we've been needing during the course of the build. So luckily it came in time, just in time, the perfect timing really. 205 block there. All good, all what we need. We won't be using the block, we don't need it. But this is what I'm talking about. That's the same as the reservoir I've got. All these look the same. Twin belt run, and that's how it worked. So let's get on. Let's strip this down. Okay, first out of the bag, take off the viscous fan. This is supplied with a viscous fan and water pump coupling there. So there's that viscous. Now you're going to have to apologise for the harsh contrasting sunlight because I'm working outside. It's a nice day on the firing range. So it's a left hand thread, so you're turning towards me to get the viscous off, and that was a 32mm spanner for the viscous bolt on the fan. Locked a screwdriver between this bolt and the crank pulley bolt so that the pulley wheel wouldn't turn, but it's a good thread on that one, so we're okay. So viscous off on a left hand thread, ladies and gentlemen. Nice viscous fan there in yellow. So now we can get to these pulleys if we want. We're going to need this, also going to need this longer pulley bolt. I didn't get that with the kit. And that bolt there is longer to compensate for the deeper double pulley. I only had the single pulley crank bolt, so we're going to need that bolt. Anyway, we can take off the pulleys now, and then we can start getting access to the alternator and the other ancillaries. So next job, these pulleys will come off and the belts will collapse, or we can take the alternator off first if we want, and then the alternator will allow us to remove the belts, or just pull this wheel. I'll take the alternator off first, alternator next. Note this hose guard. Hoping the sunshine's going to cause problems for us here outside. Very harsh sunlight and contrast, the camera will struggle to deal with this. $10mm for that one. Alternator, main bearing bolt, in fact that's it, all going through. Let's get the right spanner. Okay, so starter motor off, 3 bolts for the starter motor. Nice lightweight unit that. And then going across, we're going to see now the torque converter, and we're going to be spinning round. This little plate will come out, this little rubber bung here. That's an interesting piece that we're going to need, all part of the lovely super rare dust cover plate that we're going to need. So it's great that we've got this stuff, really just came in time. So we'll get a 19mm on the crank. Before we do pull the pulley off with a hub puller, we can use the crank pulley 19mm bolt to rotate these flex plate positions, and we'll be really careful with these. Make sure the spanner socket fits properly, because you don't want to strip these. If you strip one of these bolts inside here, we're in trouble. So we've got to be real careful how we get these. Make sure the socket fits on nice and we're applying the even force. Coming in here with this little rubber bung's going to come out. I think that should just pop out. There it goes. So that's a handy piece that we're going to need that we wouldn't have had. So now we're going to look for the 4, I think it's 4 securing bolts. That's flex plate to the torque converter. Torque converter bolts onto that. It's looking like the, I can't quite tell, but it's looking initially like the ring gear is on the flex plate. I don't think so. Let me just see. We're going to make some investigations, but we're making good progress here now, taking this Pinto off this A4 box. So Pinto married up to an A4 box, carrying on stripping down. Okay, coming into view, one of the first bolts there, just on your screen now. So we're going to get that because it's off. So all bolts are off. Hear that noise? That's the noise you'd hear if your torque converter bolts came loose. So they're all off. So now we can begin to separate the gearbox out. So we'll go for the gearbox bolts next. Say gearbox, the bell housing bolts, and then we should be able to pull the gearbox away from the block. So just go round the engine block now. Standard procedure Pinto bolts, 13s, and I think maybe 15, not sure. And then we'll separate off that box and we're away. So in we are. We're going to go round now, get these. With one hand I don't think it can be done. Yes it can. I'm going to get the rest of these just round there. We're ready to pull that box out. Okay guys, we are separated. Okay, so flex plate, ring gear, going round, torque converter there, and that's it. You've got a dust cover in between, just over here for the dust cover coming in, so you've got reference. A view of the dust cover. Right, so really there's nothing really to it. Get yourself a flex plate, 5 holes, 4 holes for the torque converter, ring gear weld on the outside, dished bit on the inside, straight up to the end of the crank, and then straight on to the end of the box. There is nothing else to it. There seems to be no complicated procedure there about marrying them up, which is what worried me. We'll check now behind the torque converter and see if there's anything we need to know about there, any spacers or anything particular, and also we'll compare what type of torque converter that is to make sure that we know what we've got to do if we've got to get it serviced or anything like that. So engine's stripped down now, we've got all the bits we need off the EFI Pinto, so we can sell that on. And now all remains to do is to look at this bell housing and compare it to the one that I refurbished. I believe it's different, but I might be wrong. If it is different, we'll be using this bell housing, so we'll be getting this cleaned up and painted. In the meantime, let's take out that torque converter and see what it's all about. We've done this before, of course, but not with this particular setup, so let's see if there's any differences. Okay, torque converter off, and nothing particularly different inside here. I don't see any other plates. It just slid straight onto that shaft there. Full of oil, and that's it. Some markings there. Nope, that's just slid on. So really there's not a lot to it lining these up. It's just the position of this relative to these splines. I'm not sure about how that works. Could be a particular way that you do that, we'll have to see. That's what we need to get the advice for. And also we need to take this bell housing off, if it indeed is different than the one I've had refurbished. I'll go find that now and see if there's any difference. Okay, so hub puller on to get that double pulley off. Just put the bolt in, wind the bolt out a bit so centre of your hub puller just bites into the top of that bolt, and then a 15 to wind it on, and then that just slowly eases out that double pulley. We nearly got that off now. We need that as part of our power steering kit up as a spare. Recover some value back because it's not needed with the engine sale, so get that off anyway. It's coming off now nicely with the hub puller. Oh, long 19. Oh, heavy that. It crushed my fingers. Okay, off for that. That is it. That's all the parts we need off this now. We can say goodbye to the EFI. That's not supposed to rhyme. But yeah, say goodbye to the EFI. Let's keep everything running. We're back out on the road. Hope you're enjoying the video show so far as we build that engine up, keeping it real. I want to be a DJ today. I've decided if I didn't do cars, I'd be a DJ. We're keeping it real. The next part of the engine's coming right up, ladies and gentlemen. We got yellow oil filters, we got orange oil filters, we got white oil filters, new in at number 20, new old stock air filter. Yeah, I think so. Keep taking the pills, boy. We're on the road. We've got the radiators in the back of the car. We're going to convert that radiator to front tube outlets, and we're going to get those heater matrices fixed up and working clean. We're going to get Phoenix radiators now, Chorley based, Lancashire. They're going to fix up the rads for us. Then in the back of the car we've also got the gearbox. We've got the bell housing that we've just refurbished. I'll be showing you that in the back of the car. That's all cleaned up. That's that new bell housing you just saw us take off the Pinto setup out of the Granada there. New in, all painted up. We've speckled it in, try and give it an alley finish. Tail housing was already done. So we give the gearbox boys the bell housing, and we give them the tail shaft, and they're going to put a new torque converter on. For the sake of it, they said you may as well get a new torque converter, so we're going to do that just in case that torque converter is tired. There's no point putting a second-hand one in there really after we've gone this far. We've also got the alternator in the back of the Mondeo, and we've also got the starter motor. We're going to get those refurbished at a specialist place in Preston, so we'll keep you updated we're not far off our first stop at Phoenix Radiators for the radiator rebuild. See you when we get there. So Phoenix Radiators, there they are. Surely Phoenix, just in that shed there. He's building all sorts. He says he used to do escorts, Capris, Cortinas. Guy knows his stuff. He's old school radiator guy, and he's just took them Ruby's parts in. I'm just going to leave him with him. His turnaround time was a few days, but I said take your time, there's no rush on those. So away we go from Phoenix now onto the automatic transmissions place in Preston. Here we go for Autobox drop off next. Old school bubble gum, look at that. They're a 70s item, them. They have not moved. Proper old school bubble gum machines. Look, remember them? And they're the old design as well, the 70s design. So little blast from the past at the newsagents there. Remember when you used to stick your, was it a penny? No, I don't know, penny tune. No, 5p's used to go in them, old 5p's. The old school ones, not them little ones, they're proper old 5p's. Okay, so we leave the automatic transmission place with that sump pan, the bell housing, the tail housing. He's happy to put all that together for me. He says doesn't anticipate any problems with it. Looking initially really good for the automatic A4 rebuild. He's going to inspect the box to see if its internals are good. He just needs a torque converter, which I forgot, but I'll drop that back off. And we've got a nice starter motor getting built for us with a cold start solenoid on it, so you'll get the Granada starter motor to fit that ring gear on the torque converter, and it'll be able to have the cold start lead connector and the Lucar connectors on it, so it'll fit straight into my loom, so that's good. So we go back to base now for a rethink and see where we're up to. It's back to Cortina City now, off we go. So just to give you a recap, we're going to close this video because we're approaching an hour of footage again. It soon gets up to that hour. And you've noticed on the previous videos I've mentioned it's an hour and it's been 1.5 hours, so I'm making a guess again that we're approaching that hour's worth of footage, trying to keep it concise. Not a mega amount happening on this part of the show, except to just to catch you up to speed where we are. Of course, when the shell gets back, it's going to hot up, and when the engine starts up and the gearbox gets back also, we're going to have some interesting things to show you. So there'll be a lull time now as we take some holidays in the June period. We've got some big car shows coming up, so we'll take the camera out for some of the shows, but we're going to wind down in the workshop for June because we're on schedule for our new target date of September. Obviously we were aiming for June initially, but the body shell's not, the paint shop's delayed. They're running a month behind, which took the pressure off me having to rush through this. But I have got a large collection of spares now in stock and ready. Certainly interior wise we are done. We might take you down to the trimmers in part 33, 34. But for this section now we slowly draw to a close. We'll go back to the workshop and just recap a little bit, and we can see where we got to for this part. There's also the field, the car in the field, the car in the woods film for you to do. That's going to take me quite a lot of editing to do to get it right. I want to make an art feature of that, so that's why you might have not seen it as quickly as I would have hoped. That film of the car in the woods there, you saw some clips and trailers of that. There's some longer version footage which I'll try and put in. Okay, so you'll see little bits, and then the main film. I might put a little clip of that at the end again. Okay, back to the workshop, we'll have a recap. Okay guys, we're back in the workshop and I've just put these new belts that we got on. Just picked up some nice Motorcraft fan belts, a matching set. Don't you worry, I'll be lining up both Motorcraft belts there. So the Motorcraft matches that one. We can't have anything that's odd. Don't know where the other logo is, but we'll find it and we'll line it up. Don't you worry about that. Okay, there's that new A127 alternator I was telling you about. And whilst you might see that mucky pulley on there, which we were going to get coated, we actually managed to pick up a real deal Ford new old stock double pulley which goes nicely on there. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for these lovely things that are going on down at Cortina City. And look, here's our thermostat housing, which pops itself up into the top there, in through there, and then on the front of your cylinder head we got some nice motorcraft hoses to go on with nice galvanized double wire securing hose clips on both ends there to look nice. You know that radiator went away, so that's going to look good. So alternator, we're checking out the position. What I wanted to do to make sure everything was in line was offer up a straight edge to the front pulley wheel and hope that it touches parallel with the top pulley wheel, which it does on this one, and it also does on the front flywheel. So we know that the relative position of the alternator and the shaft and the pulley on there is nicely in square with all the pulleys, so that the belt's going to be running nice and true, and that it's not going to be trying to skew the belt over, because we weren't sure how the whole lot goes together. But I'm happy that by offering this straight edge up that we're all in line everywhere, including this one, which I checked earlier with the fan off. One thing that I didn't know, and I bet you a lot of people didn't know this either, but now that I've told you, they can proclaim to have already known it. The cam covers are different on a 1.6 and a 2 litre. Hold on a second. Let's just listen to the weather, because it's been nice today.
But one thing you can rely on, there's going to be some thunder.
Yeah, it's... oh. Thunder front, man. It's going to be a rock tune. Ooh. We like stuff like that when we can't, you know, the score with the music. Okay, over and back, let's explain about this cam cover. It's been hot, it's been humid, it's been a great May 10th today. May 10th, my lucky day. It's always my lucky day, May 10th. Okay, I talked about cam covers, I had no idea. And this is the great thing about it all. You learn something every day. You just go along thinking cam cover, pinto, cylinder head, all the same. But no, oh no. You look at this cam cover, 1.6, which we'll be selling on, because we don't need it. And I was thinking when I got the... let me just, in the left of your screen, I'm grabbing the thermostat housing. It now comes into view for you. This... hold on, bear with me while we do it. Up and slow we go, so you don't get dizzy. This needs to fit just in here into the cam and tuck into that shape of the cam there. You see that scallop out there? I'm tucking in, and that lines up with our radiator square and true, and clears the fan belts there, and is in line with the bottom of the cylinder head. You can just see through there, so that fits. But on the 1.6 cam cover, I was finding, because I could have potentially used this if I had to, that there isn't the scallop cut out on the cam cover, which meant that this housing wouldn't lift up. This anomaly remains a mystery just yet. Now let's compare side by side. There's those two stud 10mm fixings, we've got them on that side. We're looking the same at the top, we're looking the same at the bottom. But look at the scallop cut out, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll see, look, it goes straight up, but there's more of a scallop out there than there is on this one. There's a little dimple cut out there that's not here, and that's enough for the housing to foul just the edge of there and not clear. Now I don't know why that is. I haven't, because there's a 2 litre head coming down. Let's go and look at the 2 litre head. 2 litre head there. That's oval shapes where the thermostat housing bolts. So the cam cover, the only explanation is that a 1.6 head, this is in a different place. Now I didn't know that, if it is. You'd just think they were the same, but it could be that the 1.6, I mean I know 1.6 head's different, don't get me wrong, I just didn't think that the housing would be different enough to make this needing a scallop cut out on a 2 litre. Anyway, that's solved, so we now go and get this 5010 RAL'd, that's the code for the paint, RAL code, paint RAL code RAL 5010 for this. Good job I didn't decal up the blue cam. So we now know that we clear there. Plenty of clearance on the thermostat housing to the belts, nicely tensioned with our tension bar set just over midway there. securing bolt on. That's the bracket that you're going to need if you're converting. You can't use your existing alternator bracket, it doesn't look like. That bracket also, I checked when I was doing this, I checked that when you tighten the bracket up on this 13 bolt that it lands exactly square with the alternator, so that you're not pushing the bracket or bending the bracket. That if I loosen the alternator off now, this bracket lands exactly there. Now I had to, what did I do to get it to do that? Nothing. Oh no, I didn't. What I did, yes I did, underneath here, just one small washer. Let me see if you can see that. I'm twisting the viewfinder on the camera to see if you can see what I can, which you can, just on the inside now there. You'll see that there's a small washer, just bringing the alternator forward a little bit, not much, and that brings it forward so that there was no gap between this bracket, so that when I tighten that up it doesn't push the bracket across. It would make sense that that's how it should be, and indeed that confirms when we find that the pulleys have all lined up square. A better view of the square now coming down as we go down here, and you'll see how the rule strikes the centre of the pulleys, both centres of the pulleys equal. Okay, there's a little slight trail off on the edge of that, but it's just, that's within what you need. I mean, that's square, that sits square. Coming up for the top for you there, they sit square, these sit square, which is what we wanted to happen. So that's how that works. You could get a little bit of flex in this top pump here that's under quite a bit of force. So what they did was they created these securing brackets, which you're also going to need for your power steering setup really, but you could easily make these yourself. These brackets fit on this long stud here and are used to stabilize the power steering pump. Look how that bracket would now connect into the top of that bolt, into the block itself, and thus giving it more stability. There's also another one, and here it is already in place, just going down to the bottom. We can bring that up to the top. We'll have to unhook it up to the top for this one, and then over to the power steering pump setup. So you'll see that at the moment that doesn't reach. When the power steering pump's in its final position, you can get it to go. You've just got to hook it in. We only just make it down here with this because there's not much in it. But it could be that we've got to reprofile this bar a little bit, but I wouldn't have thought so because it's come off a Pinto block, so that should go on. I'm just looking at the way that's going to work, and at the moment it can't go on the bottom one. We need to examine the situation with this bar at the top. This one's okay. This one may need a mod to do it. Now why would there be a discrepancy with this? Because everything's the same. Oh yeah, the engine mounts. This Granada, this bracket would be made for the Granada aluminium engine mounts, and so would be arriving around this area. So we need to make it so the bracket works further in, which it may do if I come in from that angle then place the bolt through. I might be able to get that. It's just you can't get it. What you need to do is fit this bracket with the pump off here, and then you'll get it on there. So we can powder coat those brackets. Just place them there for a sec. We're going to wrap anyway. Now just letting you know that it's been a lot of research and development and sourcing of parts, because my power steering kit wasn't quite complete. So I had to raid bits off that Granada that's just recently come in for the bell housing. You saw the gearbox go away, you saw the radiators go away, so we wrapped there for this part of the show. Just letting you know that we're building things up. It's going to look a little bit cleaner than this once that bracket's done, and once we've got that pulley on there, and once this nice cam cover is recoated, we can take them away and get those done, and we can build those components up. So no changes on the power steering rack at the back or the clip. We do have the steering coupling just slotted on there because some more stuff came back from the galvanizer. So coming in all the time. We're just starting to hone it down now and zoom in on the finer details. The bulk of the operation's done. We're in the right zone here to get everything done. We're not having to really rely on any rare component. Everything's within my reach. So the next step after this is to get the FR30 cam from Kent and place it onto the head that's recently been refurbished at the Cylinder Head company. We'll go and pick that up on the next film, as we will when we pick up the gearbox, and might have a trip to the upholsterers and see how they're getting on with those seats. So look forward to those things towards the end of June when I come back from Hull. So we're going to have a break for a month. Hope you can look through the back catalogues and catch up on things you might have missed. But for now, again, we thank you for those comments, everything that's been coming in, all the good, positive, constructive work that we've been doing together. It's me and you on YouTube. We're in it together. I hope sometimes when I'm filming this you can pretend that you're with me working in the workshop there. I know Jim likes to do that when he's nice and cosy at home, and Gary has a dabble as well. So we say hello to Jim and Gary again, our long-time supporters, our original viewers. With us from day one. We also welcome all the new people and all the new comments that have been coming through. I'll go and name you and reply to you personally on your comments if I'm not mentioning it on the clip itself. Don't you worry, I'll be on that keyboard saying hello to you and appreciating your support. If you can give us as much shares and links into magazines or anything that you can, it's going to help raise the awareness and keep the project momentum going. It's very exciting if you get new people on board, or you get some interest from the media as well, because it's going to help the channel to grow. It also gives me a bit of a boost. So we say good evening, and I hope you enjoyed this little clip. Let's hope that it comes out an hour. I'm going to go right home now, get some dinner, then start on the editing of the film, which will take me about 2-3 hours to edit. Each one does do that. There's a lot of work involved. It's not just a case of just plugging your camcorder into the computer and uploading it. You've got to edit all the right cut points. There's a lot of footage that doesn't get used or that gets condensed down. So that's how it works here at Cortina City. A little refresher that the axle's still all fine and good. We've got those lower spring retaining cups as well in stock and ready to go, and other associated nice clean parts for the gearbox. So plenty going on. There's no let up. I just apologise, there's been a delay with the upload on this one. We're approaching May, so April's was late, but you can see what I'm up against all the time, trying to keep it
No, just pick it up, do it. I will get converted. If they come in for it today,
yeah,
I'll have it back Tuesday morning. If I miss it
faster
today, it'll be Wednesday morning.
So was there any contaminants in it, Grant?
Bit of rust.
Because it's been stored.
Yeah.
Because I noticed it had a cap on there, which meant someone's tried to clean it up. I'll tell you what I should have brought. I've got one of them nicely galvanised. They tap out from underneath there. Bugger, I should have brought that. What we want, this is what keeps Grant going. Jammy Dodgers and tea. You see these essential ingredients. Gasket and seal kit. The sump, it is clean. It might get scratched on the bottom. So this is what was supposed. I'm going to send this to the guy.
That's your overdrive clutch.
Overdrive clutch. It's got like a honeycomb pattern, or this is supposed to be new. This is out of me. Supposed to be new box that Grant's rebuilding for us at the automatic gearbox place. And I'm glad that Grant stripped it, because it wasn't rebuilt. So I paid rebuilt money for a non-rebuilt box. I've had my ass done.
You see, there should be friction material. It's only paper, but all that's gone off that.
Advertiser's rebuilt box, Grant.
Well,
I'm not happy. It's exciting, this, Grant. Sorry, but it is. Yes, so the lockup.
all books, you're going to make all your own books up and you know about automatic.
Right. These are like Bibles, these things.
Oh, you can't buy this information. So, as you can see, I've just done wiring diagrams.
Right.
The terminal pinouts and stuff. What I'm trying to find you now is the old...
Yeah, the 2-pin.
That's how Granadas used to be, where you kick down
right.
solenoids.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try and find you a lock-up one. That was one I had to do in a motorhome to convert it.
I believe there's a delay on the kickdown so that it doesn't chatter about. It sort of has a pause on the relay.
Well, it does a downshift. The downshifts vacuum operated.
Yeah.
The kickdown is electrically operated.
Yeah, that's right, with a pull solenoid.
Yeah.
In 2 coils, one to hold it and the other to
yeah,
pull
one
it.
to pull it, one to hold it.
And you've got to have a switch circuit made to do the main pull, then the hold, which I can build.
And there
Yeah, that's it.
is I'll put in here what's kick down, pull in, kick down, hold.
Okay. I've got the relay for it somewhere out the Granada.
Yeah, well that's great. I'll give you a wiring diagram for how to wire it in. They're in no particular order, these, and they're from years ago.
Yeah, these are like
I'll have to go. Yeah, I'd have to go through and work out what's what. But they're all in here somewhere.
Yeah, there's your vehicle
That's how
speeds.
1990 lockup used to work.
Yeah.
Used to be a vacuum switch in the inner wing. It was
Right.
fed from fuse 20,
Yeah.
ignition feed,
What the hell is
and
it?
it would switch at 15 inch of vacuum
Yeah,
down there, and then that would feed your lockup solenoid.
yeah. And let's kick down solenoid.
Yeah, that was
Okay,
on the outside,
right.
and that's that switch which you're putting in the extension housing.
That's right. As long as you don't mind.
No, that's the centre support going in. There's a tapered circuit goes in there. Then we need to torque up the bolt that stops the whole lot moving, and then we'll air test. Also, we'll leave the gap for the circlip there, so that when the overdrive strut comes through, the pivot pin can drop through to there.
Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was up here somewhere, that gap. So the pivot pin was sat on top of the circlet. So again, I don't know which Herbert's built this in the
I wouldn't have
past.
made it to Italy in this, mate.
You would have made it deep, Dale.
Sugar butties.
That's when you get the converter, you see it as an assembly like that. These are the welds for the vanes. You'll see they're at different angles because of the different vanes inside. This side bolts to the drive plate, which bolts to the engine.
flex
That sits
plate,
in the back of the crank.
Yeah.
Okay. We then cut them open. This one has gone wrong. There's a bearing collapse, so it'll look awful inside, but give you an idea. And this is all filled with fluid. So as it turns, this one, because it's bolted to the engine, the vanes direct the fluid one way. The other vanes are in the opposite direction. So they multiply and convert the torque, hence the name, torque converter. Inside there, splined to the stator, which is bolted to the pump, which does not move, is a one-way clutch. That locks against itself as you set off. If they fail, what you'll get is very poor acceleration, but your top end speed will still be the same, because the one-way clutch won't lock.
Yeah.
If they seize up, you'll get great acceleration, but a reduced top speed, because it can't then let go, so it limits itself. On this one, there was a bearing there which has gone. The bits of metal have flown off, bits of aluminium. Dig all the vanes in, do all that. Now that metal to metal has to go somewhere. It's the same oil inside the gearbox as inside the converter, so that goes straight into the gearbox and does all sorts of damage. That there is the impeller, which is splined, not on this one, because that's a 504. It's splined in that, and that's what then, because of the fluid, drives inside the gearbox. So it starts off with the fluid does the drive. Now that's great, but when you're up and moving, you don't want the fluid taking away a bit of the power of the engine. So you need to find a way to lock it together. So then what you have is the lock-up clutch. So we've got a piston in here which we feed between the shaft and the impeller
Round it.
to apply a piston. Now on this one, the clutch material on this has gone, and that's gone metal to metal. But that should be like a big clutch plate, as you see it resembles it. Hydraulically operates, all immersed in oil, but that locks on, and effectively, because it's splined in, because this back is splined into there, when that locks on, and that's bolted to the engine, that makes that one. So you don't lose anything. Whatever the engine turns at, the gearbox turns at. When you slow down, come to a road end, you want that to disengage hydraulically. Otherwise, it's like a manual where you come to a road end and you don't press the clutch.
Stall.
Stall. And that's normally a sign when these things start going wrong, is when you get a harsh engagement, or it tries to stall when you put it in gear or you approach a road end.
Very interesting. And now for tea. It's like serving up the peat.
At the back of the bench,
Yeah.
I've got a mixture of boxes. The valve bodies at different sections. There's one section.
It's like a labyrinth.
Yeah. So what you have in there is a series of different size valves and springs. And if you go back to your old Pascal's law at school, the surface areas,
Yep.
you've got different calibration of springs and different size surface areas of the spools of the valve. So as you can apply the same pressure to two valves, one will move because of the surface area and the calibration of the spring.
Interesting.
All those bits of metal I showed you before come out the torque converter to go in and jam this up.
Yeah, it's how it
That's one section which I've took out, cleaned, polished the bores up, inspected them. I've still got another section around here that was on top which I haven't touched yet. Give you a clue what I'm up against. See the bits of metal on. You see this sludge there? All that bits of metal and sludge will all be inside. It'll be like what you've seen around there, but contaminated with that throughout. And this is why you must change oil regularly on a gearbox. On an engine, it only lubricates. On a gearbox, it controls all the pressures, you apply the clutches. You only need a little bit of that to jam a valve up, and it won't stroke properly, so it misbehaves the gearbox. That's an extreme case. You can get one with just bits of oil, and you've seen how fastidious we are cleaning everything.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It has to be spotless. Which is why everything comes off. Even you go to the basic stuff like the clutches and the pistons, everything has to be spotless. We blow it off. We wash them by hand. We blow them off by hand. Again and again until it's spotless. Then it goes on blotting paper and then gets blown off again.
Okay, so there we are, automatic transmissions in Preston. As you can see from Grant there, he's very helpful and talked us through a few things on the A4 box which I found really interesting. So we leave the box with him. Obviously it's shock horror. My recon box that I got off of eBay has been sat too long, which is why I suspected, and the rubber seals have hardened. You need to be using the box every few months at least, or 6 months I would have thought minimum, let that oil swish round. But so our recon box has got to be done all over again. Speaking of auto, let's drop the Mondeo into reverse and get out of here. We leave now the automatics to get back to the unit, and let's go and see what we've got going on there. Back to the unit now, guys.
Maybe you need to put an album on and listen to it just the way the band intended.
And apologies guys that the camera just cut off there in the workshop as we were wrapping up. So to summarise, full gearbox rebuild, torque converter, the whole lot, and a little guided tour off Grant automatic transmissions Preston. He's going to show me a good way of wiring in the lockup torque converter, so we can get that for cruising purposes. So we've got a lot of stuff done. You saw me just at the last minute there, the power steering pump, a light shot blast with the tubes nicely covered up to prevent any media getting in, some red oxide down and satin on top to finish off that nice finish. Alternator on with a lacquer finish on the alternator, just stops it corroding, gives it a shiny wipe down look, and that's it. So thanks again. I'll catch you in part 33, and I think it's 33, I always get it mixed up. We have a part next, I think it's 33 after this one. You'll be watching 32 or 33, and you're going to be watching 34 or 33 next. It's over and out. Enjoy the summer of June. Let's hope we get some decent weather. It's not been bad for me. Over and out. Next video coming very soon. All the best from Cortina City. We're gone.